Hey everyone, welcome to JNUC 2022. Whether you're tuning in virtually, you're watching this presentation in your hotel room in San Diego, it's so glad that y'all are here with us. Looking forward to talking to you about the state of the union of Jamf migrations today. My name is Jesse Dresselhaus. I'm a field sales engineer. Been in this role for about 6 months now. I started at the beginning of the year, but before that, I spent the majority of my 5 years here at Jamf as a pro services engineer, doing a lot of jump starts, doing a lot of Jamf Connect engagements. But the big project that I did a lot of was Jamf migrations, migrating people from on-prem servers to the cloud, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. A little bit about me personally. Grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Still live there today. Got a house in Northeast Minneapolis with my wife. In my free time outside of Jamf, I love to travel all around the country, all around the world. I'm a big foodie, love to cook, love to explore different restaurants, and I'm a huge fan of YouTube micro documentaries and just learning all sorts of different things. My friends last night said, "You know things," and that was like the biggest compliment in the world. So a little bit about me. I'll turn it over to Mike.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm Mike Caduce. I'm a current professional services engineer with Jamf. I've had the pleasure to work with over 100 different customers on their different Jamf Cloud migration projects, and it's been a long time coming to be able to spin up on delivering this service, and a really rewarding thing to see customers end up in the cloud and have so many of the day-to-day things taken off their plate. So it's been a really fun service to get to learn how to deliver. A little bit about me personally. I live down in Mankato, just south of the Twin Cities by about an hour in Minnesota. And if I'm not working at Jamf and helping customers out, I'm probably out taking care of my lawn or in my flight simulator cockpit that I've built at home and I am irreparably addicted to.
So we'll start off with what this session is not, because I'm going to assume that you guys have all read the summary and you know why you're here. But just in case, we're going to start with what this isn't, so you have the opportunity to close out of that window and go join another session real quick if you want to. So this is not a deep dive into all the different migration options, the technical nitty-gritty behind it. We're going to get into that a little bit. We are going to talk about some of the different options and give an overview, especially when it comes to some of the new stuff, the new features and functionalities of those options. But if you want that deep dive nitty-gritty, that's not this. It's also not a day in the life of a migration, kind of what the customer perspective would look like from beginning to end. If you want more of either of those things, I actually did a presentation in 2020, JNUC 2020, that was titled Day in the Life of a Migration. Go take a look at that. Most of that's still going to be valuable and still accurate today, and that would be a great presentation to go to if this is what you're looking for.
So what it is then, what we do intend to deliver here is more of a summary of our most common types or flavors of a Jamf Cloud migration. We're going to break into some recent developments and some enhancements to the process as we've kind of gotten dialed it in over time, as well as try to acknowledge some customer circumstances which might still give you pause if you're considering whether now is the right time to migrate or not.
So why wait? And you might be wondering, like, why would we at Jamf say, like, hey, you should wait to migrate? Like, ultimately, we're all about what your success is and what's going to give you the best success at making your lives easier with Apple products. And there are a couple reasons why you might want to wait to migrate. The biggest thing is the loss of the direct access to your database. That's one of the big challenges that we see. Is once in a while we'll have customers who say, yep, I'm doing this super custom thing where I need to run SQL commands and I need to be able to query the database directly. And that's something that I can't get over. And if that's the case for you, then yeah, this might not be the best time to migrate, because you'd want to look into if you can do those things via the API instead. You can still do a lot of that stuff via the API, and that's a lot cleaner and a lot safer way to manage and to get your data. But if that's not something that you're able to do, then yeah, this might not be the best time to migrate to the cloud. We're also not FedRAMP certified. This is something that we hear a lot. We do offer Jamf Pro hosted in AWS Gov Cloud, which for some people that is enough of a security posture and compliance. But if you need that FedRAMP certification, Good news, we have officially kicked off our FedRAMP effort for Jamf Pro. We're hiring a dedicated team to that project, and we're continuing to work with our FedRAMP sponsor to complete that system security plan and to begin authorization process and all that. And once that's submitted, we'll be able to share some more details on timeline. We don't have anything right now, but stay tuned for more details.
So if you're thinking about reasons then to migrate to Jamf Cloud, perhaps the most glaringly obvious one would be in just fulfilling your desire to leave all of that not so fun stuff to us at Jamf. So we're talking things like the maintenance, all the upgrades, database backups, all the direct interfacing that you need to do with that MySQL database. The thought is there that you're busy enough in monitoring your endpoints, empowering your users with Jamf Pro that we should be able to take some of that stuff off your plate and let you get back to the meat of what you're doing every day. And you might be thinking, with that comes its own invoice. It's so much more expensive to be cloud hosted. And I'll tell you, if you look holistically at things like the hosting costs, the time savings, the self-maintaining security framework that comes with us handling your patches and your upgrades, we've actually seen customers save money as a result of their cloud migration. And in some cases, it's no small number. There's a customer who has saved over $12,000 per month, not per year, but per month, largely in being able to decommission their own AWS distribution point for packages, and then, of course, all the hands-on work that comes with the maintenance that I just mentioned. So all that coupled together actually offers some really good opportunity for savings, whereas you might initially think that it's going to be more expensive for you. What you're also getting with the move to Jamf Cloud is access to some really, really cool functionality. So if you connect your Jamf ID to your instance in Jamf Pro's global management settings, you've unlocked a lot of new features and capabilities of Jamf that are only available to those cloud customers. And we'll go over a couple of those options here now. You get access to our icon database. So we've worked with so many customers on their cloud migration projects, and I've seen in the summaries that come through just really unruly database tables that are allocated to the icons, like self-service icons. And it's really been a big issue for some of those customers. So what that does, it either puts the work on the admin to clean up the database beforehand, or else we end up just kind of sitting around on the migration call waiting for that huge table to restore instead of being able to work on other things. So being able to access that and have that icon database go to work for you in the cloud has helped a lot of customers out, and many are very excited about even just that.
Yeah, and I'll chime in there too. At the beginning of my time at Jamf, I started off like a lot of people at Jamf do, working in support, answering your phone calls and your chats and your cases and all that stuff. And one of the big things we would see is, just like Mike was saying, people who had these databases that were just incredibly bloated with that icons table, and that'd be something that we'd have to work through and troubleshoot on support. But the thing is that would happen both for on-prem customers as well as cloud-hosted customers. And sometimes we'd even get an email or a message from our cloud team saying, hey, this customer, we just got an alert that like 95% of their database size is this one table. And it's just causing all sorts of issues in the back end. Can you reach out to them and help them fix that? And that'd be something we'd have to do. And ultimately that's a pain on our end. That's a pain on your end because it takes time out of your day. And it's just kind of the nature of the beast of how icons work. And this is the solution to that. So even if you are on cloud and you might be thinking, well, it's not my database anymore. You just said that. Like, the whole point is that I don't have to worry about it. Well, you still have to worry about it a little bit. And this is one of the ways that you can try to mitigate that a little bit. So, another really cool feature that we have that just came out this year, and actually just came out a preview in Jamf Pro 1040 that dropped and shipped end of July, is app installers. And so what app installers are is they allow you to push out applications and to keep them up to date automatically. And that workflow might be something that you're already familiar with App Store apps. If you're pushing out anything from the Mac App Store Mac App Store via Apple's volume purchase program, automatically pushes out, automatically stays up to date, and it's great. The difference here is that Jamf is curating those definitions and packages ourselves in-house. for things that you're not going to find in the App Store. So a lot of your favorite apps like Google Chrome and Firefox and Office and the Adobe Suite. And so just imagine a world where you never have to worry about packaging and keeping Google Chrome up to date ever again, and that we just take care of that for you. And so that's both a better experience for you as an admin, a better experience for your end user because their application is always up to date, and it's just more secure. It's a better security posture for you and your entire organization. So app installers is really cool. Another thing that I think is incredibly useful is both our Connect and our Protect integration into Jamf Pro, which is only available. All these things are only available if you're in the cloud, and specifically for Connect and Protect. But I also touch on it in app installers. I'm going to throw a shameless plug here for my other JNUC presentation that I gave a couple days ago. So go check out the recording for that. It's titled Better Together, Combining Multiple Jamf Products for Management Workflows. And I dive into what you get when you have Pro and Connect, or Pro, Connect, and Protect, and all these different things. And one of those things is this Connect and Protect integration. And so essentially what you can do is you can deploy Jamf Connect and Protect in a lot easier and more automated way, because you can deploy them to computers that have that configuration profile scope to them. And what Jamf Pro does is it will then automatically install the Connect installer or the Protect installer once that configuration profile is scoped and in place. Furthermore, for Protect, the plans that you create in Jamf Protect automatically get pulled in from your Protect tenant into Jamf Pro, allowing you to easily scope them to your computers, and you don't have to do any work as far as like exporting the mobile config, importing it into Pro, or anything like that. We just take care of that for you.
Yeah, those integrations and even just app installers alone has been a big boon for migrations by virtue of that services connector. Finally, the Jamf Pro's title editor. This will allow for admins to easily automate and monitor the maintenance of application updates. And that's built on Jamf Pro's existing patch management framework, but this services connection, this cloud services connection, enables an admin to take that a step further by manually creating patch definitions. You can import existing patch definitions like through a JSON file, or you can subscribe to other external patch definitions as well. And it's sweet that it comes with its own API as well. Title Editor does.
Yeah, Title Editor is cool because, like we talked about, app installers, those are keeping those apps up to date, but we don't have the full breadth of applications and app installers yet the Title Editor has. And so you're still probably going to run into applications that you do still have to package and maintain those packages for. And there's a pretty good, strong likelihood that Title Editor is going to have that definition for and help you keep those patch managements and patch reporting accurate and helpful for y'all. So let's pivot a little bit and let's talk about some options you have for LDAP once you move to the cloud, because this is probably one of the biggest conversations that we have with people who are looking to migrate, and one of the biggest I don't want to say problems, but objections we have of moving to the cloud, and pain points that people might run into, and that's moving your LDAP integration. Because when you move from having an on-prem server to having a cloud server, well, before that on-prem server could just talk directly to an AD server or an LDAP server on site because it's on the same network. Whereas when you move to cloud, now there's a firewall in between. And some organizations, they've got a read-only EDC and the DMZ, and they're good to go. Or they've done this with other vendors and they're good to go. But other organizations don't, and they have to do something like maybe set up a LDAP proxy. We've got the Jamf Infrastructure Manager for that, otherwise known as the JIM, or open up holes in your firewall and use LDAP-S or something like that. But we do have some other options that are cloud-centric. Some of these are old and tried and true, and some of these are a little bit newer. So first off, Okta. That is possible to integrate your Jamf cloud server with Okta. Jamf sees it as like a legacy LDAP provider, even though it's a cloud LDAP provider. There's a great blog by a fellow Jamf traveling tech guy, and if you take a look at that blog, he details how to do that Okta integration. Jamf also does offer Azure and Google as direct cloud IDP integrations. Azure's using the Graph API. I'm not sure what Google's doing in the back end, but those are available as direct cloud IDP integrations. And what you might be wondering, or you might have heard, is that Azure migrating from an on-prem server, LDAP server, to an Azure cloud server is fraught with challenges. And you were right. That was fraught with challenges. I actually had the first customer who ran into those challenges, and that was one of probably one hand of fingers that I can count on where I actually had to pull back the migration and say, "Yep, we can't do this. We have to wait and do this later." And I've, like Mike, I've done hundreds of these, and it was because back in the day when you tried to set up the Azure cloud integration and you had an LDAP integration, there was no way to migrate all the things in the database, the LDAP IDs and the mappings and the objects and all of that. It just didn't work. But the good news is our team has put a lot of work into that and has made that happen. Mike's going to talk a little bit more about that later, but that's there.
So pivoting to the various types of migrations, some updates, some enhancements to these, I'd say overwhelmingly, most commonly, customers are going to opt for a DNS redirect migration. And that's whereby they can avoid that sometimes daunting prospect of having to re-enroll all their devices. When we do it this way, as far as your devices know, they're still looking towards that old management URL. But behind the scenes, now we're writing to a cloud-hosted database. So the enhancements I mentioned, there have been a number of them recently. We call it a vanity URL or a custom DNS migration, you might hear it referred to. And one of those more notable changes is in the process by which we validate that Amazon certificate against the new instance. So there was a legacy method that involved monitoring very spam-prone kind of default email inboxes when you do a whois lookup against your domain. So like admin at your domain or webmaster at your domain. And if you've had the pleasure of checking those inboxes recently, you've probably seen they're a very scary place. You needed to do that before to keep up with a yearly certificate renewal cadence. That was Amazon pivoting on us, where that certificate used to live in perpetuity. It no longer did. So you're going in there and renewing that once a year. Not a huge deal, but Jamf responded to that by pivoting to positioning now a DNS method of cert validation instead. So that maintains itself, doesn't require you to touch any Tomcat certificates directly anymore. So it's a huge win for you. Just a small note on that too, there are some public DNS providers that may also require a certificate authority authorization record or a CAA record. That may need to be in place in DNS before it's going to trust a CNAME for Amazon certificate managers. So we cover all that on our intro call with you, make sure that we put you in a place for success with all those necessary records in DNS. Another super excited thing that we've been waiting for and you've been waiting for, Jesse touched on it, and just to add a little bit more color to the Azure migration workflow. So if you're an admin with Jamf Pro, you're transitioning to being more cloud forward with Jamf and probably a dozen other things too right now. A lot of admins are taking that cloud forward mentality now to their directory service. So Jamf Cloud communication, like Jesse said, to an on-premise AD server can be achieved easily enough through LDAP over SSL or through setting up an LDAP proxy, our infrastructure manager in your DMZ. But there are those out there who are leveraging an Azure tenant for Azure Active Directory already. And so built into our product now, we've got a migration wizard that's going to aid you in establishing that Azure AD connection. Migrating to that involves configuring your mappings as well so that we got everything speaking the same language. And then we'll walk you through decommissioning that old on-premise LDAP server since it's not doing anything good for you anymore. And that all happens kind of all in one flow. User group membership doesn't break like it did in some instances before. So if you're in a place where you're just using LDAP just for your admin accounts, like into the back-end web app, or if you've gone and configured like LDAP groups has scoping limitations for your other configs and policies, either way, you're right where you were before in the cloud. So very good for the security posture too, like Jesse mentioned, not to have to leave any of those firewall holes poked in there to let it talk to your domain controller. Jesse mentioned this too, re-enrollment if it's already in the plan for you. So maybe you're a school district who gathers up all their devices for provisioning like during the summer months, or maybe you're lucky enough to be working through like a hardware refresh in your environment that's going to involve a lot of automated enrollment anyway. Jamf Services is still able to assist in those cases in restoring your database in the cloud. And then we can provide you with several re-enrollment options too using that new URL. So you need not start over fresh. We can still take that database from you, but maybe re-enrollment doesn't scare some people as much as it does others, and that's where that option comes into play. Finally, if there's those of us who are maybe inheriting a management framework from another admin who's departed, or maybe you're just kind of blowing the cobwebs off of an instance that's not very well utilized right now anyhow, a fresh start migration might be the best way to get you into the cloud. And that just provides you with some dedicated engineering time to go over certain best practices. We make sure that you come away from that call feeling like you're in the best possible position for success. They are less common, but those types of kind of fresh start migrations, they're far from unheard of. And just being able to get off on the right foot in the cloud and tailor every little element to your needs, that's an enticing purchase for a lot of our customers. So we're eager to help out with those as well.
Awesome. We've talked a lot about migrating from on-prem Jamf Cloud, on-prem Jamf Pro to cloud Jamf Pro. But maybe you're looking for some further automation with that. You don't want to do some things by hand. You want to automate that and just have a white glove experience, or maybe you even you're hearing this, and you're like, yep, we're managing our Macs with Jamf Pro, but our iOS devices we're still using Intune, and we want to get those on Jamf Pro too. We can help with that. Get in touch with your customer success manager or your sales engineer or anyone at Jamf, and we can help start that conversation. And with that, thanks for coming to our JNUC presentation, JNUC 2022. Hope you have a great time at the remainder of your sessions. And thanks for using Jamf or being a part with us. And be well.